Everybody. Just getting some coffee down here. And yeah, just thought, you know what? Why not take everybody on a little bit of a tour this morning so you can see the project that has been going on in my home. It feels like all of eternity, but it really isn't all of eternity. But it does feel like a little bit of time is going on. So, good morning, Jenny. So, our kitchen used to have like this setup behind us. So, I added in cabinets, and Al Huff actually helped me change the countertop and reconnect it all together. We've put new flooring down inside of the kitchen, which looks amazing. And then on top of that, we opened the wall up. That's probably the biggest. There used to be a wall right behind me. And so we opened the wall up, trimmed it all out. And so now it's 16-foot open into our living room area. I got to make sure I watch where I'm stepping right now because there's trim all over the floor still that we had to have painted and get all that all set up. So this is our living room area. It kind of looks like a war zone right now, but we're doing all the flooring, extending that in. We painted all of the trim. So all the trim that you see up there, or not trim, but the spindles that are up top, we painted all of that. Painted the staircase over there back behind me. Back here in this back area, we painted, well, Kasha and my mom helped a little bit, but mainly Kasha painted all of these windows. So we painted all the trim windows. So they're all black. We're doing like this kind of modern farmhouse feel with the white and then the black black trim. So all the doors, so you see kind of standing there are doors. So we did all that, and then we've done the hallway as well. And then down here is, like I said, all the trim. And I made my own trim, my own square stock, and we've been having to paint that. And then we did the staircase back here. Well, we did this wood wall along this corner, and then we opened up the closet right here. So it used to be a closed, ugly closet, and so now we opened it up, and I'm gonna build like a bench in there, and then like hooks on it, and then that's the staircase, and there's a giant ladder, so we can get into those upper windows, which was pretty tricky getting all those. Lots and lots and lots of painting, lots of spindles, and then down this hallway right here is more doors and more stuff that needs to be painted. And then, oh yeah, it's just been a doozy. And then more doors back there. So anyways, it has been a ton of painting. And then even down here, we painted all the walls, and we've got it all painted around here. So yeah, I'm pointing it up right now because I don't know. Josiah is doing remote learning right now. And so yeah. So anyways, it's been a good project, but I'm be happy when it will be done, which should be soon. I don't know exactly when, but soon, hopefully. So this is our office area down here. This is where I spent most of my life during the quarantine. I was right down in these areas. So lots of work, yes, but it is looking good. I can engage with the comments now. It's going to look amazing once it's all done. But as of right now, even last night, paint and trim. So, but so good morning, Jenny. Good morning, Audrey. Good morning, Ellen. Good morning, Rod and Kelly. Good morning, Karen. Good morning, Susie. Good morning, Jared. Hey, Jared Evans, man, that guy right there. I know he's faithfully on here for soap. I think almost every day. But Jared, him and the men's group just did a phenomenal job yesterday, and we had a great, it's just a great time. And I know they put a ton of work into making that day possible for the buck pull yesterday, and I think we had like 10, 12 deer, maybe something like that. Maybe not as many as I think what they were hoping, but it was still a good night and accomplished what we really wanted to do, and that was just to bring community together. So the chili was amazing. Joe Fletcher had some of his chili. Well, I had a lot of people's chili. Let's just be honest, and they were all really good. So that's what I love. Our family knows how to throw down some chili, throw down some cooking, and they're great. And Irma, great job. Amy, good to see you on here. Irma, I love your little good morning, you and Amy's good morning little sunshine like things. So that's great. Carol, lots of work, but yes, it is looking good. Thank you so much. And Patty, good morning. Evelyn, good morning. Thank you, Darlene, or Pastor Eric. I don't know which one it is this morning on there, but saying it looks great. So it is really coming together. So we're kind of towards the end now. I've been waiting to put the rest of the flooring down because we keep painting trim, and man, the trim was just kind of a fiasco. I drove all the way out to Menards to get trim, and then I didn't end up getting the trim that I was going to get. And because it's just trim is super expensive right now. Any type of wood product is. So I just made my own, and so I made my own. So that's what you do. You just make your own. Come on, Jared. Just made my own. Used table saw and 2x4 and made some trim. So getting pretty handy. Sanded it all down. Did it all by hand. That way I can, when people walk around, go, oh, this looks great. I can say, I hand sawed and made all that trim right there. That's what us guys like to do. We like to be able to say, all right, I did all this trim. Went over someone's house here a while back, and I won't say his name, Al Huff. And Al Huff had made a ton of the trim himself. And of course, he let me know that he had made most of that trim. Because why? Because it takes so much work to make trim and do all that stuff. So you want people to know, hey, listen, this ain't no store-bought stuff. This is handmade by yours truly. So that's what I'm going to be able to say. So, yeah, and then you got Chad down there. Chad, you know what I'm talking about because Chad's a woodworking. That guy makes stuff happen. And so, Chad, I should have had you come over and just do it all. That's what Kasha said. We should have paid a professional. But we're the DIYers. Because the professionals would have come in and worked all day. They wouldn't have had to go to work and, they're at work, but they're being paid to do that. So anyways, you know what I'm talking about. So anyways, yes, made with love, Jared. Yes. Chad says, yes, you should have. I should have. Yes, you're right. It wouldn't, I would get more sleep right now. But then my grip strength wouldn't be as strong as it is right now. Man, I feel like I could shake somebody's hand. I could just rip it off because my hands are so sneaking strong and swollen and sore and hurting. Oh, yes. I should have listened to her, Chad. You're right. I know. But where were you, Chad? Where were you in my time of weakness when I could have or should have? Anyways, Psalms 55, weakness, talking about some weakness. We see David here talking, we see this compilation of David's writing here. And we see a moment where David's dealing with some type of rebellion. There's something that he is struggling with in this moment where somebody has come against him. And we're gonna see that here in a moment. As we'll kind of jump into Psalms 55, but basically it's some type of rebellion that David is struggling with. There's this power struggle against him. David being the key leader, the true king, and someone's betrayed him. And in the midst of the betrayal, he feels unprotected. He feels like the city is a dangerous place. And so David cries out to the Lord. And there's a lot of different thanks, Chad, for always being here. I just saw that comment coming through. You have my number. I'm always willing to help. All right, Chad, I might give you a call. um, but okay, so anyways, back here. Sorry. Comments, they distract me all the time when I'm by myself. Um, but here we see David feeling like he has been rebelled against. And some commentators have said, maybe this is speaking of Absalom here, and Absalom's rebellion that we read about in previous soaps. And maybe it was even like the trusted Epithel. I can't remember how we actually said to say it, but anyways, Pithethel. Anyways, he was one of David's trusted companions, and then he leaves. And so some commentators have said, "Is that it?" But the thing is we don't think that that probably is. Many scholars would say they don't, because he uses some pretty strong language in this. In some ways, is almost wishing them to hell, and it would be hard to imagine David wishing Absalom to hell. When he didn't even want him to die. So like that would be like David didn't want Absalom to die, so to wish him to hell would be a pretty big stretch in there, and it would create some conflict. So David writes the Psalms, and one of the things I love about the Psalms so much is David is always giving us a picture of many of the things that I think we can relate to. Have you ever felt betrayed by a friend? Have you ever felt like there was a moment in your life where you felt, man, like you were exposed, like there was danger around you and you didn't quite know how to handle it and what was going to happen and what was that process going to look like for you? And David finds himself in this moment of feeling exposed, feeling like there's danger all around him, feeling like he doesn't know who he can trust. In fact, he later in it says, "This is a dear friend, a companion, someone I walked alongside, someone that I did life with, and yet this person betrays me." And I know that, I've watched when a spouse betrays someone, and I've seen that from afar. I I've never experienced that with Kasha, and so like, which is awesome, and like she's an amazing wife and a mother and all those things. But I've but I've also watched others feel the betrayal of a spouse, and it's one of the probably one of the most painful things I've had to watch with people, because this is someone you've done life with, and then you feel this betrayal that happens. And I've watched it, and I've seen the struggles that couples have gone through in these moments. And I just want you to know, like, I think that you can take solid, rest and solitude in the Psalms like Psalms 55 today, because David is actually going to show us what we need to do. And so the first thing David shows us right off the bat is in verse 1. He says, "Give ear to my prayer, O God." What does David do? Does he turn to others? Does he turn in the midst of his betrayals, in the midst of his struggles, to the things, the comforts of the palace? I mean, think about it. Like, David could have had anything he wanted in many of the Psalms that he writes. Now, some of them we know were written from places of hiding, and some of them were, when he hadn't actually come into being king. But many of them are written from a place where he could have had any of the comforts, any of the distractions. And yet David turns to where he knows the true source is. He says, "Give ear to my prayer, O God." He says, "Do not hide yourself from my supplication. Don't hide yourself from my pain. Don't hide yourself from the things I'm struggling with. Attend to me and hear me." And I want to remind you guys this, that God hears us and God attends to us. Like, even, and I know that's crazy to think, like, the God of all the universe, like, how in the world can he do that? It's because he's God. Like, he's the one true God. And so he goes on to say, "I am restless in my complaint and I moan noisily." Now you may say, why is David sharing this? I think what David is really showing us is that David is showing us, he's saying, "Listen, I don't have much peace. I'm struggling in my season right now." And maybe right now you're feeling like it's hard to have peace. Josiah this morning which is a little bit of the reason why I was running a little late, because he came to me and said, Dad, I really want to go online. And they have the state championship this weekend. And with contact tracing and all of those things with the school, if he's in a classroom that's sitting next to somebody else and that person ends up getting COVID or something happens and then it gets contact traced, he wouldn't be able to play in the game. And so he's just been really nervous and things like that. And it's just been causing some anxiety. And I was thinking about all the students that are dealing with that. It's like they go to school and here they are sitting next to classmates and friends, and yet they don't know, like, oh, this could be the thing that could have me actually be quarantined now, and then I can't play my championship and all these things. So LCS has done a really good job of allowing a hybrid of where the students can still attend online virtually through Zoom, and the teachers are interacting through that, and yet still have classroom and just depending on the student. So anyways, all that to say, Josiah went online this morning and is gonna be going on online all day, just because he wants to make sure that he doesn't get contact traced. And so basically, I even say, why are you telling us that? It's because Josiah was dealing with something. He didn't have a peace. And I think right now there's a lot of circumstances around us that can cause us to not be at peace. And one of the things I take, really rest in is David shares that concern with the Lord. Like, God, like, I'm restless in my complaint. I moan noisily. What is he saying? He's basically saying, I'm in it, man. Like, I need your help, God. Like, in the midst of this season, I need your help. And I can't wait to be able to just kind of even share with Josiah here later, like, hey, let's take rest in this. Let's remember even how David responded in the midst of this moment where he was struggling to find peace. Charles Spurgeon said this: what a comfort that we may be thus familiar with God, that we may not complain of him, but we may complain to him. Not complain of him. It's not God's fault that we're facing the things that we're doing. So we don't complain about God, but we can bring our complaints to God. God, I'm struggling in this season right now. And I think of many of you who maybe are facing some things even physically, and there's some things that have been going on in your life, and you're like, I just want to encourage you. You can take those things to the Lord. Like, whatever you're facing, bring those to the Lord. And then David goes on to kind of write. He says, because of the voice of my enemy, because of the oppression of the weak, for they bring down trouble on me, and in wrath they hate me. He's like, listen, this isn't good. I got people who are against me, not for me. And I think anyone who's in leadership these days, I don't care what you're leading, whether you're leading a business, whether you're leading in a workplace, I guess that's a business, whether you're leading in the government, whether you're leading in a church, or like, it doesn't matter where. If you're leading people right now, the truth of it is that many of us are facing things where there will be people who will not like us. They will not want leading in a household. Yeah, I mean, like, even in our households, like places that we're leading, there are going to be people who are not going to agree with the decisions that we make, and it's going to feel like they're bringing trouble on us. So then David goes on and he writes this. He says, my heart is severely pained within me. The terrors of death have fallen upon me. Fearness and trembling have come upon me, and horror has overwhelmed me. So I said, oh, that I had the wings like a dove. I would fly away and be at rest. And what does David basically say? David is saying, listen, this stinks so bad that I would love to just escape. I would love to just kind of escape out into what? The woods. Into the woods. Into the woods is where I go. Into the woods. I know that's not how the song goes, but into the woods. Like, David's basically like, I just want to go into the woods. Like, I just would love to be like a dove and just fly away and be at rest out in the woods. Like, take me to the wilderness, take me to the place. And there is something said about just taking a walk and just spending time out in nature. Um, I think a lot of us can relate to like the beauty of nature and just being outside. And um, It's because I think for many of us, it's like, I just want to escape. I just want to get away from the stresses and the things that are like, they're on my mind. And oh, I just noticed I got paint on my fingers still. Um, and David's wishing that he can just escape. And I think for many of us, there's probably a wish that we could just escape, that we could just get away from the things that are around us, that we could get away from the problems that present themselves, the people that come against us. And David is really looking for an escape. And I want to caution us on something. It's in the moment when we're looking for an escape that the real danger can happen. It's in the moment of the escape where we make bad decisions. For David, there's a moment, remember, in David's life where he chooses to escape the pressures of leading and the pressures of war. And so the Bible says, a time when kings should be at war, David chose to do what? He stayed home. He chose to escape. And it's in the midst of escaping from the pressures and the demands and the things that David falls into one of his greatest moments of temptation that has a massive cost, not only on him, but on the entire nation. Of course, we know David, while he is supposed to be at war, he's not. And he sees Bathsheba bathing one day, and he is captivated, and he gives into that temptation, and he calls for her. And then she ends up getting pregnant, and then he tries to cover it up. And then the cover up doesn't work. So he has someone murdered, all because of a moment where he was trying to escape. I mean, that's really what it was. He was trying to escape. And so I just want to challenge you to something like, in the midst of your moment of just wanting to escape, look to the Lord. Don't look to the things of this world. Don't negate and give up on the things that you've been called to. Actually hold to the things that you've been called to. Hold to what the promises that God has given. And so we rest in that. So then David then asks God to deal with his enemies, and he basically says, God, will you destroy them? Will you cause confusion that will come among them? Um, for I've seen the violence around me, I've seen the strife. So God, can you just take care of my enemy? He talks about basically like, listen, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I'm seeing this around me, in the city around me, in the area. And in the midst of it, there's a lot of trouble. There's a lot of iniquity, the Bible says, and there's destruction. And he says, so God, would you just destroy the enemy? He, in many ways, I would say this, David is in a spot where he's basically saying, listen, I need you, God, to actually take care of these things. And that's what I love, is in this Psalms, we actually see David turning to the Lord. And listen, it's okay. We can turn to the Lord with our moaning. We can turn to him with our complaints. We can turn to him with the things, because God can handle it. And then we say, God, would you take care of my enemies? Would you, even in the midst of instability, even in the midst of the struggles that I'm facing, would you be my peace in the midst of this? And it goes on to say, for if it is not my enemy who approaches me, then I could bear it. Nor is it the one who hates me, who has exalted himself against me, then I could hide from him. But it is you, a man, my equal, my companion, my acquaintance, my sweet counsel. Together we walked in the house of God in the throne. So what is David saying? He's saying, listen, here's what's so hard. It's not even the enemy who I feel betrayed by, it's someone close to me. And I was talking about that earlier. Like, it's the one who, in some ways, and I'll say this is just a thought that I had earlier, and that was that this is why many times we don't let people close. We don't develop stronger or deeper relationships with people, whether that's friendships or even with family, because we say, you know what, I don't want to let them, because I'll say this, it's the people that we draw close that can probably hurt us the most. It's the people that we draw close that are the ones that can hurt us the most. But here's the thing. Jesus, the word of God says, sticks closer than a brother. Like, Jesus is the one who, even in the midst of these moments, he's there with us. And so when we know that God is with us, here's what we can do then. We can then allow others in. Build walls up between us and to say, you know what, I'm doing it because I need to be protected. I need to make sure that I'm okay. I need to make sure that no one can hurt me. And so we close off. And I've seen this with couples that have, like someone who's gone through a divorce. The pain of the divorce causes them to build these walls up in their lives towards others, towards friendships, towards family, towards relationship, all of that, because they've built this wall up, because they're saying, I don't want to be hurt. I don't want someone to hurt me again. And David is feeling like the person who's actually wronged him is someone who's very, very close to him. He's an equal, he's a companion, he's an acquaintance. And here's what's crazy. This unnamed person, we don't know who it is, right? David doesn't name him. They had helped each other. They had actually been in the house of God together. I mean, like, they had experienced something spiritually together. And this David feels betrayed by like someone that he had done life with. And some of us probably can relate to that. Feeling betrayed by somebody who we had done life with, we had shared life with, we had experiences together. Maybe it's something even spiritually, like maybe you feel betrayed by someone that has left the church, like has left, like relationship with you, and we struggle with that. I just want to challenge you, like, be careful what you escape to. Be careful what you're trying to then. You don't swing the pendulum so far the other way. It's like, well, that person hurt me, so I'm done with church. I'm done with community. I'm done with this. Like, and I've seen that. Like, church hurts. Like, dude, people like are walking around hurt and offended by people, and they say, well, I'm just not going to go to church. I'm done with church. I'm done with community. Because why? Because they got hurt by somebody, whether that was a leader, whether that was a small group leader, a pastor, like, I don't know, but I've just watched a lot of people being offended and being, hurt. Not even just always offense. Sometimes it's straight up hurt. So then what does David do? David once again reminds us. Remember, we talked about earlier. We talked about he starts it off the psalm off by saying, I plead to you, O Lord. And then once again he says, as for me, I will call upon the God, and the Lord shall save me. What do we do when we want to escape? What do we do when we feel betrayed by a friend? We call on the Lord. I know it seems like crazy. It's like, oh, duh, Pastor Brian. Well, duh, yeah, but we don't do the duh, do we? Many times we call our friend, we put it on Facebook, like we put on Facebook, so and so hurt me, da 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 da, and then everyone else gets on there and says, oh yeah, that person's, and we got tons of trolls out there. Come on, people who just love, like, I'll say this. I said this all the time. The illustration is this. Listen, don't go play with the pigs in the mud. Because why? Because the pigs like it when you play in the mud. So just don't. And some people love to get conversation going on online. There are some people who just, like, I'm telling you, they love it when you get in with it. When you put your stance and they put their stance, and I don't know, it's like, it's messed up. Don't go play with the pigs in the mud. Stay out of the mud. Don't slop it around. They like it. A pig never goes, oh, I hate that you came and played in the mud with me. No, pigs love it. Don't be a pig. If you get anything from Soap today, there you go. November 16th, don't be a pig. Don't go play in the mud with others. Come on. Stop. Get off. Come on. But what does David show us? Turn to the Lord in prayer. Do the very thing that we know we're supposed to do. Duh. Just do it. So that's why he says, evening and morning, at noon, I'll pray, I'll cry aloud, I'm going to talk to you, Lord. And what? He shall hear my voice. Why? Because he's redeemed my soul. And what does David write? In peace from the battle that was what? Against me. Those who had come against me. And then he says this, for there were many against me, but God will hear and afflict them. And even he who abides from the old. Even the old things that happen. And then it says Selah, which every time the word Selah is in there in the Psalms, this means rest. Like, think on this. Let's just take a pause and think then on what was being said. So every time you read it and you see that word Selah, it just means rest. Just pause and contemplate and think on it. So when people come against you, when you feel betrayed by someone close, you turn to the Lord. Because why? Because he cares for you. Because why? Because he sticks closer than a brother. Because why? Because he comforts those who are broken. Because he heals the broken. Because he restores the broken. Because God is one who's constantly putting all the pieces together. He's omniscient. He's omnipresent. That means he's all-knowing and he's everywhere at the same time. Like, God's amazing. And so here we see the Lord challenging David in his heart to do what? Then to rest. Just to take a pause. Just to take a pause. What can it look like to just take a pause? Just to wait. Just wait. Just wait. What does it look like just to wait? What does it look like just to say, all right, God, I'm just gonna wait on you. I'm just gonna trust. And then David kind of goes into later in verses 20. It says he has put forth his hand against those who are at peace with him. He's broken his covenant. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet they were drawn swords. David's this unnamed person, or this like, well, they're unnamed, is treacherous. They've broken the peaceful relationship that's there. They're breaking agreements with others. David is using this word picture, like they're basically smooth talkers, smooth like butter. I mean, come on, like, you thought that came from something else. David was the one who wrote it. This dude was smooth like butter, but war was in his heart. That's how I feel like. Like, when I hear that, man, that dude over there, he's smooth like butter. But listen, here's the deal. He's got war in his heart. Listen, don't be smooth like butter and have war in your heart. Don't be as, smooth operator. Smooth operator. Yeah, don't be that. David shows how this person was super dishonorable, not only towards him, but also towards others. He was someone who spoke a lot of things with his mouth, but actually did not carry them well. So then what does he do? So David once again says that. So then David in verse 22 shows us again what we're supposed to do. He says, cast your burden on the Lord and he will what? He'll sustain you. In the midst of the betrayal, in the midst of the struggle, in the midst of the thing where you feel like you've been wounded by someone close to you, in the midst of that, what do? You take that burden, you take that struggle, you take those things, and you take it to the Lord. Because why? Because he'll sustain you. He goes on to write, he says, he shall never permit the righteous to be moved, but you, O God, shall bring them down to the pit of destruction. Bloodthirsty and deceitful men shall not live out half their days, but I will what? I will trust in you. So there we go. Will you and I trust in God? That's what the psalmist is really challenging us with. He starts it off, I turn to the Lord in prayer. He shares a struggle. I do what? I turn to the Lord in prayer. He shares a struggle. I turn to the Lord in prayer. I share a struggle. Not only does it affect me, but it affects others. And he can feel justified. He's like, dude, this person who's wronged me hasn't only wronged me, but he's wronged others. Like, he said things with his mouth, but he hasn't even followed through with them. Like, he's treacherous. He's an enemy. He's an enemy of the state. He's an enemy to others. But David doesn't take the matter into his own hands. He does what? He takes it to the Lord. He takes his burden, the heavy weight of his burden, the heaviness of the situation, and he takes it and he gives it to the one that he knows can actually carry it. He takes his burden and he gives it to the Lord. He takes the burden and he gives it to the Lord. And he knows that God's going to sustain him. He knows this. He just casts that burden on the Lord. He just gets rid of it. he knows that God will be with him. Charles Spurgeon had said this. He said, if I cast my burden upon the Lord, what business have I carry it myself? How can I truthfully say that I have cast it upon him if I'm still burdened by it? Let me say this again. If I cast my burden upon the Lord, so if I'm giving my burden to him, then that would imply that I'm not carrying it. That's what Charles Spurgeon says. So he says, then what business have I to carry it? He says, how can I truthfully say that I have cast it upon him if I'm still burdened by it? Which would imply what? That I'm still carrying it. Well, you don't know what happened to me. You don't know what that person did to me. Yada, yada. It sounds like you're still carrying it. But you don't understand, Pastor Brian. Like this person wronged me. That this person, like they cheated on me, or they hurt me, or something happened in there. And you're still doing what? You're still carrying it. That's why I talk about forgiveness all the time. Forgiveness, I think, is a key. Forgiveness allows us to release the control that others are trying to do over our lives. Unforgiveness allows you to be controlled by others who are around you. Because why? Because you're not forgiving them. When you forgive someone, it doesn't mean you're saying what they did is right. You're saying, I won't be controlled by it anymore. David had to understand something. Like, I'm not going to be controlled by this anymore. I'm not going to allow this wound from a close friend, this wound from someone who hurt me, someone who I walked alongside with, talked about the things of the Lord with, like had all these experiences. And now he's wronged me, speaking out against me. He's speaking, negative to others. It's affecting others around me. David says, I'm not carrying that. No way, Jose. I'm giving that burden to the Lord because it's him who I will cast my burden upon. And in the end, he gives us the key to all of it. How can you and I, in the midst of a season that we're in, cast our cares, constantly turning to the Lord? He says this, because I will trust in you. And isn't that what it kind of always boils down to? Do we trust that God will take care of the situation? Do we trust that in the midst of the seasons that we're facing right now, that we can just trust him? The Psalms appropriately ends once again with David focusing on God, not his enemies, not the ones who have betrayed him, not on the circumstances that he's facing. He ends it by saying, you know what? There's one thing I know I can do in the midst of all these seasons, even in the midst of the wounds created by someone close. I can trust God. And he knew that as he trusted in God, that he would not be disappointed. So my question today to you is really this, is like, do you trust God in that type of a way? Do you trust him in a way where it's like, you know what? I know there's a lot of things that are out of my control that are happening around me. But you know what? Man, I know I can trust God. I know I can trust him in the midst of these seasons. Listen, some of you are business owners who are on here, and maybe right now things are really good, but you've also know that in the back of your mind, you're like, man, I've seen also when things aren't that good. It's like, God, I'm going to trust you in my seasons of plenty. I'm going to trust you in my seasons of lack. We don't trust God just when things are going good. We trust God in all seasons. And David shows us the good, the bad, the ugly, shows us all of it. So do you trust God first? Are you willing to put him first in your life, even when you feel wounded by someone really close? Will you trust God? And will you do like David, turn to the Lord when you feel betrayed? Turn to the Lord when you feel overwhelmed. Turn to the Lord when you're struggling. Turn to the Lord. Like that's what David shows us. I'm complaining, like I'm struggling with this, God. And it's not that God can't handle it. He can handle your complaints. God, I take my complaints to you. But guess what? We don't take our complaints to Facebook. We don't take our complaints to other places. No, we take our complaints to who? To God. That's what David shows us. And that's what all throughout the scriptures we see. We cast our cares upon him for what? For he careth for us. That's where we take our concerns. That's where we take not to our girlfriend, not to the friend around us. We don't. No, we take them to the Lord. Not even to our spouse. Some of us share things with our spouses, and I'm not saying keep secrets, but I'm just saying you don't have to share with your spouse every wrong thing. Sometimes we're sitting there stoking the fires. Well, we share everything together. Sometimes you just need to shut up. I know I shouldn't say that, but seriously, sometimes just shut your mouth. You don't have to share everything because there are some things that you're sharing that are not beneficial. When you complain and you share all your complaints, you're not okay. This is not a bit, well, maybe it's biblical, but I don't have a biblical reference for it right now. But you and I carry two things. We carry a can of water and we carry a can of gasoline. And there are fires that happen around us, and we can choose what we're going to add to those fires. We can either add gasoline, we can complain about it, we can stoke the fire, we can make it explode and get even bigger, or we can carry water and we can douse the fires that are around us. Some of us are like taking our complaints to people who are close to us all the time. And it's like, stop. All you're doing is adding to the fire. Where should you take your complaints? To the Lord. I'm not saying you can't bear one another's burdens. I'm not saying that you can't love each other and pray for each other. But that should come after you've taken it to the Lord first. That's the sequence. Take it to the Lord first, and if after you've taken it to the Lord, you don't feel at peace, you don't feel like you're like, man, I need someone else with me in this moment, then take it to a friend and say, hey, can you pray with me about this? Could you imagine if we actually took the things to the Lord first, and then we're just like, you know what? No, it's okay. I took it to the Lord. I know it's okay. And then other times, like, you know what? I need someone else still with me in this. Okay, I'm gonna take it to someone else. So, anyways, I could talk about this all day long, as I have already. But Psalms 55 is a great Psalms today, and super excited for it. So, man, hopefully you got something out of today, and we're challenged with that today. Appreciate each and every one. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna pray it out, and I'm just gonna pray specifically over you. Yeah, I got something to pray. So, Father, I thank you for every person who's watching, those who will be watching later, God. Thank you for the power of your word. Thank you that we're able to dig into it together, God. Thank you for all those who are watching and will be. And God, I know that all of us have probably in many ways can relate to feeling betrayed by a friend, by someone close. And Father, our initial response is to try to escape. Our response is to try to maybe then badmouth or talk about that person to others. And God, I pray that right now that our first response for each and every one of us that would be hardwired, instilled into us, would be just to turn to you first. Father, I've been wrong. I turn to you. Father, I've been hurt. I turn to you. Father, there's these wounds that are being, there's someone's ripping the Band-Aid off too soon. I turn to you. Father, may we turn to you. May we see that today, that we can turn to you and that we can trust you. So, Father, I pray for every person that they would turn to you. I pray your blessing upon them today. I pray, God, that you would bless them as they put their hands to various tasks. God, bless them. God, I pray that you'd bless them with good health today. Bless their bodies physically. God, I pray for their minds that you would give them peace, God. The peace like David was asking for. He's like, listen, I'm not at peace right now. So that's why I'm asking, God, for you to turn your ear to me. I'm turning to you. I'm trusting in you because I know that in you I can find my peace. So, Father, for every mind that is racing, every mind that is struggling, anxiety, fear, God, may you just bring peace over them right now. God, for financial needs, I pray, God, for provision. For physical healings, I pray for healing. God, for mental depression, God, I pray joy. And I pray peace in the midst of these seasons, God. I thank you that we can trust you. And God, that's really where it all boils down to. Do we trust you? And God, today we say we trust you. We trust you, God. So thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. All right. Bam. Good stuff today. Good stuff. So thanks for going on a little tour with me earlier this morning. If you didn't watch the first part of SOAP, I did a little bit of a tour of my house and all the little projects that we were doing. So fun. Got to get to the office though. Got a big day today. We're doing some blue sky planning, some dreaming, working on some different things. Then I have a lunch appointment. Got a full day. Got a full day with some stuff going on today. So, anyways, appreciate you guys. Have a great day, and you guys are all awesome. Talk to you later. See you Friday with my lovely wife.